I still remember that day as if it had just happened. I was 10 years old, clutching a small, carefully wrapped gift for my sister's birthday. The house smelled of vanilla cake, pine from old Christmas decorations, and faint perfume lingering in the air. Sunlight filtered through the lace curtains, casting soft patterns on the worn wooden floor. Laughter spilled from the living room. My heart raced with excitement. I had waited all week to be part of her celebration. But then came the words that would stay with me for over a decade. One of my relatives looked me over with a cold, dismissive stare. "You should sit outside," they said. "You're not family." Time seemed to slow. My hands shook. My stomach twisted into painful knots. I wanted to cry, to scream, to run, but I did none of those things. Instead, I walked outside, each step heavier than the last, until I reached the cold, concrete porch. I sat down, hugging my gift to my chest, feeling the weight of every word pressed down on me. Through the window, I watched laughter, hugs, smiles, and realized I wasn't allowed in. Not here, not ever. The days that followed were hard. Every holiday, birthday, and family gathering carried an invisible reminder that I didn't belong. My parents tried to console me, but their words felt hollow. "It's just how families are," they said. "You'll understand when you're older." I didn't understand. I only felt small, unseen, unimportant. School became my refuge. I threw myself into academics, music, and sports. Every achievement felt like a tiny victory, a way to prove my worth, even if no one at home noticed. I found friends who became my chosen family, people who celebrated me, comforted me, and believed in me. Slowly, I began to understand that belonging didn't have to come from blood. High school was another battlefield. Navigating friendships, first crushes, heartbreaks, and social struggles, I carried the quiet weight of exclusion. I spent countless nights on my bedroom floor, staring at the ceiling, asking myself, why am I not enough? But I also discovered resilience. I learned to fight silently, to persevere even when the world told me I didn't belong. I pushed myself in ways my 10-year-old self couldn't have imagined. I joined the debate team, practiced piano for hours, and even started volunteering at local shelters, finding purpose in helping others. High school years were a mixture of discovery and pain. I walked the hallways carrying a backpack heavy not just with books, but with the weight of feeling invisible at home. Every laugh behind closed doors in my family's living room reminded me of my place outside. I learned to smile at others while my own heart quietly screamed. I discovered that the world outside my family could be kinder, though not always. Some classmates were cruel, some were indifferent. But in those hallways, I also found people who saw me for who I was, my quirks, my laughter, my stubbornness. These friends became my first chosen family. We spent hours sharing secrets, planning weekend adventures, and helping each other through the small dramas of teenage life. Academics became a sanctuary. I excelled in debate club, where my voice finally mattered, where I could argue, reason, and win recognition for my intelligence. I spent hours practicing piano, losing myself in melodies, the music giving voice to the emotions I couldn't express otherwise. I volunteered at local shelters, helping children and families in need. In those moments, I realized that empathy and love were things I could share freely, even if I had felt rejected at home. Yet, the pain of being told I wasn't family never left me. I spent long nights lying on my bedroom floor, staring at the ceiling, asking myself, why am I not enough? What did I do wrong? I imagined confronting the relatives who had hurt me. I imagined telling them that their words could not define my worth. These imaginings gave me small sparks of strength, little fires that kept me going through lonely moments. Romantic relationships began awkwardly. I longed for connection, for love, for someone to see me fully. There were crushes, dates, and heartbreaks. Each one carried echoes of my family's rejection, as if I was waiting for someone to push me away the way I had been pushed outside the living room. But I learned that my worth was not determined by anyone else's acceptance. I started to dream bigger. I wanted to leave the town where everyone knew me as the outsider. I wanted to go somewhere I could define myself on my own terms. College became the beacon of hope. I applied to several universities, each essay a declaration of who I was, a plea to be seen and recognized for my efforts, my passion, my potential. Acceptance letters arrived like little miracles. I packed my life into boxes and suitcases, carrying not just clothes and books, but years of hope, resilience, and determination. The city I moved to was vibrant and overwhelming, full of strangers and possibilities. I found an apartment, furnished it with mismatched but meaningful pieces, and began the process of creating a life that truly belonged to me. In the city, I met people who would shape my adulthood. Some became lifelong friends, some were mentors who guided me through internships, first jobs, and early failures. I learned that belonging could be built, nurtured, and chosen. Family could be people who showed up, who celebrated me, and who made me feel safe. For the first time, I began to understand that my identity was mine to define, not dictated by those who had once rejected me. College was like stepping into a new universe. I left the small town behind, carrying with me a mixture of fear, excitement, and the faint, lingering sting of childhood rejection. My first day on campus was overwhelming. The size of the lecture halls, the energy of students rushing from class to class, the smell of fresh coffee and books. Every face was a stranger, every corner full of possibilities. I found my first apartment with 2 roommates I barely knew. The first night, I sat on the floor of my empty apartment, staring at the plain walls, feeling both liberated and lonely. For the first time in my life, I realized I was truly alone, but also, that I had the freedom to define my own life. I could decide who I wanted to be, who I wanted to surround myself with, and what kind of future I wanted to build. Classes were challenging but invigorating. I studied late into the night, fueled by ambition and determination. I joined clubs, met professors who encouraged my curiosity, and found friends who quickly became like siblings. For the first time, I felt the warmth of belonging, not because of blood, but because of mutual respect and shared experiences. Yet, the memory of that day on the porch haunted me. Sometimes, while walking through crowded streets or studying in the library, I would remember 10-year-old me, clutching a gift and sitting outside, invisible. Those memories brought pain, but also fuel. They reminded me that I had survived, that I had grown, and that I could achieve more than I had ever imagined. I worked part-time jobs to pay rent and tuition. Some shifts were grueling, long hours at coffee shops, cleaning floors late into the night, but I learned independence and responsibility. I met people from all walks of life, each with their own stories of struggle and triumph. Their stories inspired me, showing me that life could be hard, but resilience and determination could carry you through. Romantic relationships began to take shape. I met someone in a literature class, quiet, thoughtful, and kind. Our conversations stretched late into the night, discussing books, dreams, and our fears. For the first time, I felt a connection that was pure and affirming. But I also realized that love was not a replacement for self-worth. I had to build my confidence and identity on my own, not rely on someone else to validate me. I explored the city, sometimes wandering aimlessly, discovering parks, cafes, bookstores, and small hidden corners that became my personal sanctuaries. In these moments, I reflected on my journey, the pain of rejection, the struggle of adolescence, and the triumphs I had achieved. I started journaling, pouring my thoughts onto paper, confronting the fears and doubts I had carried for years. Writing became a therapy, a way to process my emotions and map out my goals. Internships came next, exposing me to the real world. I worked in offices, met mentors, and learned the value of professionalism and perseverance. There were failures along the way, projects that didn't succeed, presentations that fell flat, but I learned to pick myself up and try again. Every small success became a building block for my confidence. I began to see that my worth was not determined by those who had once excluded me, but by my actions, my persistence, and my character. During summer breaks, I would sometimes return home. Those visits were complicated. Seeing the house where I had once been told I wasn't family brought a mixture of nostalgia and pain. I had to navigate old dynamics, confront memories, and maintain my own boundaries. I realized that growth sometimes meant accepting the past without letting it control your present. By the end of college, I was transformed. I had built friendships, skills, and resilience. I had learned to navigate rejection, embrace independence, and define my own sense of family and belonging. I graduated with honors, proud of what I had achieved despite the obstacles. I knew the journey wasn't over, but I had grown strong enough to face the next chapter of life. After graduation, the real world hit me in waves I hadn't fully anticipated. The city that had once been full of possibility now felt enormous, daunting, and sometimes indifferent. I moved into my first full-time apartment, furnished sparsely with second-hand furniture, stacks of textbooks, and a few sentimental items I had carried from my childhood. My first job was in a small office, doing entry-level work I had dreamed about but never fully understood. The work was tedious at times, emails, spreadsheets, endless meetings, but I approached every task with determination. Each small success, whether completing a report ahead of schedule or helping a coworker solve a problem, became a reminder of my capability. For the first time, I felt that my skills and efforts were recognized not because of family ties, but because of my own merit. The transition was not easy. Long hours, financial struggles, and the weight of independence pressed down on me. I had to learn to cook, pay bills on time, and manage time wisely. Simple tasks I had taken for granted before now carried importance. I learned to budget, schedule, and plan, skills that became lifelines in my quest to stand on my own. Friendships deepened. I reconnected with college friends, built new connections in the workplace, and found mentors who guided me in ways my family never had. These people taught me not only technical skills, but also life lessons: how to navigate office politics, how to assert myself, how to find balance between work and personal life. Romantic relationships evolved as well. I dated, sometimes with excitement, sometimes with heartbreak. Each relationship taught me something about myself, about boundaries, about the importance of mutual respect. I learned that love could not fill the void left by childhood rejection. I had to cultivate self-worth from within. The memory of that porch never fully disappeared. Occasionally, I would pass by my old neighborhood, catching a glimpse of the familiar streets and houses. Sometimes, nostalgia would hit me, and with it a pang of sadness. Other times, it fueled me. I reminded myself that I had grown, that I had built a life independent of their approval, and that my worth had always been mine to claim. Work brought both satisfaction and challenges. I faced deadlines that seemed impossible, supervisors who were demanding, and coworkers who were difficult. Each obstacle became a lesson in resilience. I learned that mistakes were not failures, they were opportunities to grow. I developed problem-solving skills, patience, and the ability to remain composed under pressure. Financial independence gave me freedom, but also responsibility. I paid my rent, utilities, and student loans. I saved, invested, and began planning for the future. Every dollar earned felt like a symbol of my effort, my resilience, and my ability to thrive without reliance on anyone who had once rejected me. Family dynamics remained complicated. Visits home were layered with emotions, sometimes warmth, sometimes tension. I learned to navigate those moments carefully, to protect my emotional well-being while maintaining respect and civility. I realized that personal growth often meant setting boundaries with people who had hurt you, even if they were family. During this time, I also reconnected with my sister. Our relationship had always been complicated. I remembered the day when I had been told I wasn't family, and how that had shaped my childhood. But over time, we began to communicate, share experiences, and understand each other's perspectives. Slowly, we built trust, learning that connection could exist even after years of distance and misunderstanding. By the end of this period, I was fully independent. I had grown into an adult capable of managing responsibilities, navigating relationships, and making decisions that reflected my values. The lessons of my childhood, the exclusion, the rejection, had not broken me. Instead, they had forged resilience, empathy, and a sense of purpose. I knew that the next chapter of my life would involve confronting the past fully, attending my sister's wedding, revisiting old family dynamics, and embracing the journey that had brought me to this point. The call about my sister's wedding hit me like a wave of nostalgia and anxiety. 11 years had passed since that cold day on the porch, and suddenly I was faced with the choice: attend and confront my past, or stay away and preserve the fragile peace I had built for myself. My heart raced as I thought of walking into that house, seeing the people who had once excluded me, and facing the memories I had carried for more than a decade. I decided to go. I wanted to see my sister happy, to celebrate her, and to measure how far I had come. I packed my bag carefully, choosing a dress that made me feel confident. I practiced my speech in front of the mirror, reminding myself that I was no longer the child who had been told she wasn't family. I was strong, accomplished, and worthy of presence in any room I entered. The drive to the wedding venue was filled with memories: streets lined with houses I remembered from childhood, corners where I had played, the porch where I had once sat alone. Nostalgia hit hard, mingled with fear, anticipation, and a strange excitement. I parked, took a deep breath, and walked toward the entrance. The venue was beautiful, filled with flowers, candles, and the soft hum of conversation. My sister was radiant, her eyes lighting up the moment she saw me. She ran into my arms, whispering, "I'm so glad you're here." In that instant, years of pain, rejection, and invisibility began to melt away. I realized that I had changed. I was no longer the small, frightened child on the porch. I was confident, resilient, and capable of embracing my own worth. The evening unfolded like a dream. I laughed, danced, and shared stories with relatives and friends, some I had barely known before. Toasts were given, speeches were made, and each moment reminded me that love and belonging could exist beyond the confines of past hurt. I felt fully present, not just as a guest, but as a person who had earned her place in the world through perseverance, growth, and courage. I reflected on the journey that had brought me here, the countless nights of doubt, the years of studying, working, building friendships, and learning independence. Every challenge I had faced, every moment of pain, had prepared me for this one, being able to witness my sister's joy while feeling complete within myself. Family dynamics were still delicate. Some relatives looked surprised to see me, others offered warm smiles. I maintained grace, engaging politely while protecting my emotional boundaries. I realized that true strength was not about confrontation, but about maintaining dignity and compassion, even in the face of those who had once caused pain. At the end of the night, I hugged my sister tightly. 11 years ago, I had been told I wasn't family. 11 years later, I understood a deeper truth. Family is defined not by exclusion or approval, but by love, presence, and choice. I had survived rejection, built resilience, and created a life that reflected my values and identity. I was family. I was enough. Life had taught me powerful lessons. People might hurt you. Life might challenge you in ways that seem unfair. But within those challenges lies the opportunity to grow, to build self-worth, and to find chosen family among those who see and support you. That night, at my sister's wedding, I embraced the journey fully. Recognizing my strength, resilience, and the love I had cultivated along the way. As I walked out of the venue that night, the city lights reflected in my eyes. I knew that while the past would always be a part of me, it no longer defined me. I was ready to move forward, carrying lessons of perseverance, empathy, and courage. I had faced rejection, navigated life independently, and arrived at a place of self-acceptance and joy. From the child sitting alone on the porch to the adult standing confidently at my sister's wedding, the journey had been long and difficult, but it was mine. And for the first time, I felt truly whole. I was no longer waiting for anyone else to validate me. I was family, I was enough, and I was ready to live the rest of my life fully, embracing every opportunity, every challenge, and every moment of love.